Hello, it's Steve Overgard. I'm at 4022 Newstead Place in Prince George. I'm going to go do a crawl space inspection in the kitchen and in the floor door. Okay, I went through the crawl door and I turned right, and the first thing I'm seeing on the foundation wall is that there's holes drilled, and that indicates that the property has been treated for termites in the past, which is good. I am 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 floor joists to the right of the crawl door, and I'm looking at the floor joist, and it's got some white discoloration on it. I am not a mold expert, but some people may say that could be mold. So when Kenny's here, he ought to look at that. It does rub off when I put my finger on it, so make sure that Kenny takes a look at that when he comes. Okay, when I first came into the crawl space, I kind of felt like the crawl space was nice and comfortable. It felt almost air conditioned, and the reason is because it's air conditioned. The duct that goes from the main house back to the addition is disconnected. So you've got right here, you've just got air conditioning air, which is blowing in the crawl space, which makes me very comfortable right now because it's nice and cool and dry, but you're actually literally air conditioning the outside. This is something I have never seen before, and so the ductwork is being held up by a paint stick. Very creative. I'm looking at the vapor barrier, which is a good thickness. It's 6 mil at least, and it is stable to the ground. So that's good. That's helping with the moisture control. And this gives us a really good view of the white discoloration right here. And it does wipe off with my finger, so you definitely want to have that checked out. Okay, location-wise, right now I'm right here where Todd is working. There's a foundation vent which is open, and then it cuts back a little bit to the right there. And I'm just kind of looking in this area here. Okay, again, right here where Todd is working, and I've pulled some of the insulation back, and one of the ways that we test the soundness of the wood is we stick it with a screwdriver, and I've tested this pocket and this pocket, and there is some discoloration here, but the wood does not appear to be not sound. Looking up in this area here, you see a little bit of discoloration on the wood. It looks like that area there could have some water damage. I'm going to poke it. Okay, and that piece of wood is deteriorated somewhat. I was able to put the screwdriver in it without a lot of resistance. That black stain right there is just from the insulation paper. That's not mold or anything. It's not rot. Just something I noticed: the end of the drain pipe here, the clean out, is taped on. You can see where there was some water staining, so apparently it was leaking to some degree, and taped back up. So that ought to be corrected. That's not a real big reach, but it should be fixed while we're here. Okay, what we have here is a 3-member 2x8 or 2x10 beam. The joists for the kitchen are somewhat bearing weight on this. They don't have any T-codes. I think they should, but they have a little ledger board there, and the joists are on the beam, and they go from there then to the center beam, way over there. So it's spanning a big distance. I would definitely recommend, at the very minimum, T-codes up here to hold these things in. They're just kind of toenail in. This is a piece of a pipe strap that is just basically rusted into nothing. It's laying, just shows you that there's a lot of moisture right in this area, which we knew. A piece of wood, which is just basically dust now. It's in the crawl space. And there's some area right here where that pipe comes through, which we, not a big surprise, we saw that from the outside. This is the next joist pocket over. There is some discoloration, but it is structurally sound. All right, and what we have here, we've got typical builder foundation vents. They're designed to be manually opened and closed during the season. During the summertime, they should be open only in the very coldest days of the winter should they be closed. This one is closed. It's no mystery why, because nobody does it. So I'd recommend that we change all of the foundation vents to automatic opening ones. Here we have what they call Quest pipe. It's Q-E-S-T, polybutylene or something like that. Gray plastic is kind of the signature. The pipe itself is very good. It's reliable. It'll freeze up. It's well up. It won't break, but the fittings always tend to go. And usually the fittings are in an inaccessible place. This is an example of a fitting. When there's a failure with this type of plumbing system, it will usually be in the fittings. Typically these fittings are in the wall where you can't get to them. Over here, you can see some more. That's a pipe hanger. The job of that is to hold the pipe in place so that it has the proper fall. Over the years, if it's an extremely damp environment, the metal pipe hanger will rust and turn basically into dust. And so you've got a number of those heading that way. Putting my hand on top of the duct here, and I can feel the air coming out. So there's some leakage in the ductwork here. I can feel the cool air. This is the dryer vent hose, and it goes to the outside. It's in here, it's all coiled up, and so it's probably no longer hooked up to the dryer. This is in the far back corner of the kitchen, and I've got the phone up in the pocket, and I'm noticing some discoloration in here. I'm going to poke it with a screwdriver to see if the wood is structurally sound. Okay, I poked it with the screwdriver. I'm not sure how much you can see or not. The wood is giving a little bit, but I wouldn't call it a structural failure. I would call it, remedial action probably ought to be taken pretty soon, or that wood is going to continue to deteriorate. It's not at a point of structural failure right now. As far as getting T-codes on here, there's a lot of pipes and wires and stuff like that in the way, but I think we ought to try to get as many T-codes as we can on these joists. It's going to be very... it's going to be a little bit more difficult on the front side over here, but I think we should get on as many as we possibly can. It's about 8 on each side. This is the wall that is on the left side of the kitchen. What you could be going back, along the garage here. I don't know if you can see it or not, but these are old termite trails. They don't look like they're active, but there was termites over on this side of the house at some point in time. Look like old termite trails. This is in the area over where the kitchen goes into the garage, and there's a sag in the floor there. And I would be happy to say I wish I'd never seen this before in my life, but sadly we see it all the time. So there's a pipe that comes through here. A drainage pipe. Instead of twisting the pipe and cutting a hole in the joist and putting it through there nice and neatly, what they did is they hacked out right almost pretty close to the center of the joist, which is the very worst part, and they hacked out probably greater than 50%, and then they went up the back. So strength wise, there's not even the strength of a 2x4 left in this joist, and that joist, because it is close to the wall, does carry a lot of weight. It bears a lot of weight because of where the pipe is located. It's going to make a repair a little bit trickier. I think we can engineer something. But anyway, we ought to do something with it, because that joist is going to continue to sag. And that, it's evident, it's evident along that wall pretty much. You can feel that, and then it's also evident in the doorway. Okay, so that's that. This is the joist that's one end from where that other is cut. It may be an optical illusion, but it seems to me like there's a sag in that joist just from the long span. It's a tremendous span. So if that's the case, the easiest way to remedy that would be to put a little quarter wall underneath that with a couple of jack posts and a hand dug footing, and it goes up to the center beam is up there, and these joists are not resting on the center beam. They're just nailed into the side of it, but they really ought to have T-Cos, in my opinion. Okay, I'm on the way back out, and I just keep running into these pipe hangers that are just, they're rusted. They're rusted beyond where they ought to be rusted. They're everywhere. And what will happen is, they might be all right for a little while, but eventually, the rustier they get, the more of them that are going to start to fail. So if you have, let's just say over a 12-foot span, you have 3 of these, and one of them fails, then you have 2 of them over a 12-foot span, so they're carrying more weight, or trying to carry more weight, and then they continue to deteriorate because the metal is just, turning into dust, literally. So they do make this type of thing now. It's made out of a plastic. It might do better in this crawl space, and it might be worthy of mention that you would consider to go through and redo all these pipe hangers with something that's not going to be subject to moisture damage. Okay, this is just kind of an example of some of the duct work. This one, you can see where there was a wire hanger there made out of electrical wire, and that's been either taken off or failed for whatever reason. So you've got a kind of a dip in the duct work. It's not going to cause a failure, but over time it diminishes the efficiency of your heat system. So it's kind of drip 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 type of thing. So if we're here doing anything in the crawl space, we should go through and make sure that the ductwork is supported and not sagging. I'm seeing a number of places where the condensate line insulation is missing here, and a few places up here, so should be patched back in. Again, over time it will cost.